make of this session is that we will start on time and we will end of time, so you will be one of the first to enjoy the coffee break later. If you want to, and please feel free to come closer. We don't do tricks on you. It will not embarrassing to sit in front. Enjoy our morning session on media literacy. Thank you so far for everybody coming to this session. Where is, two are missing. Hori niso. Пожалуйста, мы сейчас занимайте ваше место, застегивайте ремень.
Please take your seats, buckle up, listen and observe.
Sorry. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our session on media literacy. I hope you had a good sleep. I hope you had a good rest, and I hope you had a good breakfast. But perhaps some of you already had some news or saw something on social media that you find sort of disturbing, worrying. We are still preparing, so I'm doing the opening remarks. I'm introducing to this while one of our panelists is still trying to get her things correct. But we are all in good shape, and we are all well prepared. So some of the news you have seen might not be the one that you find puzzling and so forth. So. And I think you made a good choice to come to our session this morning to talk about media literacy, which is actually something that helps us to navigate in an environment that contains news and information that is disturbing, or we don't know what to do with it. And media literacy is about helping us to critically understand it and to analyze this and to make decisions that will be helping us to make sense of all what we are hearing. And media literacy, in my view, often sounds very soft. It sounds sort of like media literacy. This is associated with children's games, plays at schools, but in reality, media literacy is one of the most powerful protections that we have now to protect ourselves against harmful information, disinformation, propaganda that is very harmful for our societies. And while we had here also our meetings here in Uzbekistan, but also here with you during the conference, and we always hear, of course, there is a concern of harmful information that is around, that is posing democracies at threat. We hear that is harmful information around fake videos, AI-generated videos that have a negative impact on elections, on peace process even. So media literacy is really some skill that would help us, and it's much needed that we overcome all these challenges that we are facing now in this, let's say, times where we are missing some sort of orientation and rules, so everybody is equipped to find the way out. So I'm very, very pleased to have a very diverse panel for you of 5 speakers and spanning a quite different region from Dublin to Dushanbe. We have experts here who have already worked in their own fields for a long time and know their media environment very well, but they also already have some initiatives on media literacy on their different perspectives, and I'm very, very pleased to have them here. And I will introduce them to you now by asking them short questions that they will give you their view on already where they stand at media literacy. So let me start by Asay Soranbayeva. She's chief editor of Check It Media from Kyrgyzstan. And please, can you just quickly answer to me what is something about media literacy that still surprises you? And please press on the red button.
Спасибо большое.
Thank you very much. Good morning, colleagues. What surprises me still in media literacy is that people think that freedom of speech is some amorphous concept which does not concern us. And people think that freedom of speech are needed only for journalists and rights activists. This is very sad. And sometimes when it hits people personally, then they understand how important the freedom of speech is, freedom of expression, freedom of position. So this is still surprising for me.
It to the importance of media freedom, and we will also touch on it. And let me then continue and introduce you Hurinisa from Tajikistan. She's chairwoman of the Tajik Media Council with a very long experience in media. And please, пожалуйста, вы скажите, пожалуйста.
Please, can you tell us what surprises you still? Good morning, dear colleagues. Thank you, the organizers, for inviting us and give us the opportunity to speak. What surprises me is that media literacy at this time that government agencies still do not have the full grasp of media literacy in society, because now it's time of AI development and digital era. So the governments do not fully understand.
There seems to be still not an understanding for this. And now let me move over to Tamar from Georgia, who came here. And Tamar is executive director of the Georgian Media Development Foundation with Detector, and where she's also chief editor. So Tamar, what are your thoughts on this?
Thank you for inviting me to join this conference. I'm surprised by generational differences in dealing with media literacy competencies, because media consumption habits are changing and perception news varies across different ages, because in Soviet times, something that was published was perceived only truth. Today, everybody can create the content without acknowledging who is responsible for this content. And this is media literacy, about acknowledging the responsibility of consumers who are part of global media ecosystem.
Thank you, Tamar. And this leads me now to our next expert who's joining us from Zoom. And this is exactly Martina Chapman. And what I remember from what Martina Chapman told us, it's always from cradle to grave. Media literacy is from cradle to grave. An approach that she would certainly support. And now we are testing the Zoom link. And I know it's very, very early morning in Dublin, but Martina was happy to get up for us and be prepared. And we see her, and Martina, we don't hear you, but you look very fresh. You look good for 6 o'clock in the morning.
Okay, let me see. Just give me one moment.
We hear you very well.
Will
Just
you hear me?
yes,
Great,
yes, yes.
excellent.
Please,
Okay.
please answer.
I'm
Please.
very pleased to be here, and I'm very sorry I cannot be there in person.
And could
Good
you
morning,
please?
everybody.
Yes. Good morning. Could you please start with our short question? What still surprises you in the discussion about media literacy?
I suppose what surprises me is the short-term approach to media literacy that we have in many countries, but maybe I shouldn't be. We know that the range of topics covered by media literacy is so broad that there's usually no single government department or body with responsibility for it. And that means it can become a sort of policy orphan with no clear home, with no champion for it, no national strategy or secure funding. But yet every time there's a complex digital media issue that needs to be addressed, like disinformation or online safety or online radicalization, we hear media literacy being proposed sometimes like some kind of magic solution. And media literacy it's such a crucial set of skills and knowledge that's required to build resistance to many digital issues. But it is lifelong learning, and it's not a solution on its own, and it's most likely to be effective in the long term as part of a set of diverse interventions. But I guess without a permanent policy home, it's difficult to do that long-term planning.
Thank you, Martina, and also thank you for highlighting that is not the solution for everything. So it's not if you have media literacy, all our problems are solved. I see our panelists are nodding. And now, thank you for giving us this very short introduction to yourself and your views on this. We also see the technical part is working on our side, and all are here. So let me then continue, and I think we all became very curious what our experts will continue to elaborate on their work, which I promise will be very interesting to hear from them, how in their different environments are doing their best to do it. And now let me start again with Arcel, who has prepared a presentation for us. Arcel is working for 3.5 years on media literacy, correct me, and I think Marcel found out if you want to do a program on media literacy for your audiences in Kyrgyzstan, it has to be also made in the language and in the style that people would really receive it. So here is the stick for your presentation, and we see your presentation is on, so please. And here is the microphone.
Thank you so much, Bettina.
So our topic is fighting disinformation in Kyrgyzstan, and Bettina said that I can talk about one project. Actually, in Kyrgyzstan we have lots of projects implemented, but it is very sad that this is being done by local organizations or with support of international organizations. So large scale at the government agencies, unfortunately the attention is still not very big. So what is the impact of social media and messengers? There are so many fake news going through social media and messenger apps, and there is a lack of quality journalism. This is also one of the problems, and using media by specific organizations for their own interest. And this, of course, leads to decrease of quality in objectivity of information. So any lay person feels difficulty in this environment, and of course there is a lot of fake news, disinformation and misinformation, and then information bubble and polarization, because people tend to have confirmation biases, and of course it leads to polarization in society, and our society is becoming more and more polarized, and it is very difficult to unite people under one idea. So again, this is probably the impact of social networks.
We implement a lot of projects because of the donor support, because of international support. In Kyrgyzstan, we have a lot of implementing a lot of projects that's for the media literacy, for the critical thinking of the population, for the fighting with disinformation. I would like to talk about my own resource, and I think we're doing a huge work to increase the media literacy. And we have two types of activity: content production. Through the content production, we main message, or where is the truthful information, where is the fake information we're trying to provide to our, so the check it media, so we, in a Kyrgyz, it's a call period or a dot, and we check information and put a dot in the, and no truth is our motto. And before it was just a fact-checking resource. Then we expand our work, and we would like, through the quality Kyrgyz language journalism and a video format, we would like to provide the truth to the people. We start to do explainers, we start to do analytics, to do investigation. We are only resource in Kyrgyzstan that's doing a critical analysis of media product. So if our colleagues, sometimes they can manipulate information, sometimes involve in a disinformation. We talk about it. We discover these topics, and we also go on sites, make a video from this right site, and it's increasing. We also interview, not with always doing interview, but only with experts who can provide a good narrative, good message, good information for our auditory. And it is the first type of activity. And the second type, we do the media literacy. I think 190, or actually, we already don't remember how many trainings we conducted, 120. So we involve representatives of local authorities, activists, journalists, akins, improvisers. They are thinking through the information. It was a big project. Also, Manaschi, people who are talking. We conduct a lot of trainings for students, for school children, teachers, lecturers, bloggers, and candidates for the deputies. So we had a parliament election, and it was international projects with the Central Voting Commission. We conducted how not to use a hate speech for the future. For the future deputies, it's extremely important not to use a hate speech, to no responsible attitude. This is our platform: Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. We pick the most popular social networks that's in the Kyrgyzstan use, and now we have 77,000 subscribers, and average number of views per article 65,000. In general, a median is average number is 65,000. And if you do quality journalism, if you follow ethical standards, it's difficult to cover a significant number of viewers, but we try. We are learning algorithm of social networks, and for one material we have, I think yesterday before I did the metrics, and some materials cover 500,000, some 10,000-20,000, but for each article, for each publication, 10,000-20,000, which is really good for the Kyrgyzstan for quality content. So for us, it's extremely important to keep ethical standards of journalism, ethical norms, because we critic of our colleagues. And if we are going to do the same, then they're going to just reflect mirror. So the major problems, major obstacles, lack of mandatory media literacy courses. We do have it in the university, some in schools, but it's not a significant attention paid to the media literacy. Just a few hours. The need for qualified instructors, teachers. We have such a problem as well. Yes, we did conduct trainers, but I think it's not enough. The secondary nature of the issue in the educational policy and the ratings of the freedom of speech that's also declining. Self-censorship in the media. We also discussed in our countries that self-censorship in our countries increase, and lack of funding, of course. It is a problem of all, I think, all who involved in the media. So in general, this is really briefly, I've been told just to keep it 5 minutes, right?
Very much, Marcel. This was, first of all, it was in a very good time, a lot of information, and what I also found very interesting is, of course, that you also combine in your organization media literacy with analytical, with high-quality journalism products. And I think the aspect that you mentioned, also self-censorship, is interesting, so I hope you also have time for question and answers, and maybe in one of the other later in this session we can also raise this. Thank you so much for this. Now let me, Jasichas Chatiela Piridas Slova.
I would like to pass the floor to Huriniso Alizoda from Tajikistan. You are working quite a long time in the Tajikistan media. You know very well. And when we preparing for this session, you already said which particular problems you can see and what should be done for the media literacy. So please. Could you please put a presentation of Madam Huriniso Alizoda? Dear colleagues, dear conference participants, once again, good morning. As I said, representative of other countries, and yesterday speech, I can see similar problems, pretty much the same problems. So I would like to provide several examples. One of the examples on the corporate disinformation, and one of the series for the citizens of Tajikistan, I believe it's low quality of the internet and mobile connection. Rural citizens, people who live, they remain a serious issue for certain, but companies constantly talk about this internet of wide 4G coverage, increased internet speed, and the world-class connection quality in their statements and advertising materials. In practice, however, there is significant discrepancy. This process is a clear example of corporate misinformation. When you apply to the support service about quality of service, operators quality use a template, turn on, turn off your telephone, reboot your device. There is a problem with your SIM card, or maintenance work is being carried out in your region. These answers do not solve the problem, but only distort reality. This analysis shows that the practice represents a consistent system of disinformation, consisting of three particular stages: denial of the problem at the national level, everything's fine; shifting responsibility to the customer, as the problem is probably related to your own device; and consoling promises. Specialists work in your region already. All these points, and again, I can provide some examples. I think it's enough for you to understand how disinformation in a corporate level exists. Tajikistan, like many countries in the region, is facing growing volumes of fake information. This problem affects not only professional media, but also social media, messaging apps, and everyday communication. It's worth noting that media literacy issues are increasingly becoming evident in our daily lives and affect a wide range of society. To show how relevant this topic, I will give you several topical examples from real life. Today, there are clear examples confirming that a threat posed by deepfakes to our society is real and cannot be ignored. In the social media, you can see famous people promising something and using of Mufti fraudsters used Said Mukarram Abdul Qorizoda, Mufti of Tajikistan name. Such videos claim that investing in cryptocurrency complies with Sharia law. And citizens of Tajikistan, 99% of the Muslims, they believe in this, and somebody on the behalf of a Mufti of Tajikistan is create such a fake video claim about a cryptocurrency, and people with a low literacy do not know about media literacy. They cannot recognize the fabrication. They think it is truthful information. However, those citizens who knows about media literacy, they recognize it. But unfortunately, we still have people, citizens, who believe in the deepfakes and who can be pushed to the risky activity. Some scammers even operate outside of the country, operate outside of social media with the support of domestic accomplices, posting different ads offering supposedly guaranteed employment in the United States or European countries, or lucrative stock market investments, misleading our citizens. The victims are most often young people who are hoping for a bright future, fall into the trap of scammers. This is not only an economical problem, but it's a social and ethical problem. The public can be easily be misled by deepfake, by fraud, and it's a continue to spread unless systemic actions are taken. We should tell that the Media Council is the only NGO, non-governmental, that's a self-regulatory platform that has been operating and working in the media regulations. It's an independent platform working more than 15 years and protection of the professional ethics, development of the dialogue between the media, society, and the government. However, working with the journalism alone is not enough. To effectively counter disinformation, it's necessary to engage broader segments of the population, civil society, teachers, government officials, and young people. It's important today to move from the discussion to systemic education. Yesterday in the reports, in the introductory words, the deputy ministers and representative of OSCE also mentioned opinion. That's what we, that I think that for Tajikistan is also important, the systemic approaches. However, just a one-time meetings that we conduct, it's increase literacy, but do not form sustainable media literacy skills. So the next stage, the next phase is we prepare trainers. We train trainers with the support of Internews of Tajikistan. 2 years ago, we had a 4 months project, and from Internews, that's in the regions, we conducted meetings about media literacy. That's the pedagogical cadre participated representatives of the local Hakimiyat mayor's office. And the first time they hear media literacy as a term that we mentioned, for them, these terms have been completely new. But 2 years passed, and before to come here, I connected with representatives of the presidential administration, with the representative of the parliament, and I thought to ask what is doing on that level. Unfortunately, the response has been, unfortunately, nothing been done on that level. Nothing done in the schools, nothing done in the higher educational institutions. The government organizations, government entities do not do such trainings or such seminars. I think after the conference is going to be ended, we should increase our work in all these areas to prepare a draft, a plan, working with the donors, working with the parliaments, with the government, so at least education to make a systemic approach for the education. Thank you.
Thank you. Horeniso. Thank you.
You raised what are the bad actors, and it is interesting also, of course, that you mention mobile companies, and I think it is also good to remind us that disinformation, one of the problems is that there's the denial of the situation and accuse others.
Да.
And so let us move now to Tamar from Georgia. She is also working for a very, very long time in media, and she has also a very long experience in working with media literacy. And if I understand everything right, you are working on the civil society side with media literacy, and the government is working, has taken a different approach to work on media literacy. This is at least how I understand it, and of course this is also very interesting for us to hear. So thank you, Thomas. Do you want to have the microphone, or you want to have this? Let's see. This is for you for the presentation, and if you want to have the microphone.
Okay, I will try to use both. Thank you very much for having me today here. I will start with general highlighting the problems we're witnessing in dealing with media literacy topics. I think, oh yeah, it works. So it's important that media literacy is important topic on international agenda. However, different countries are developing different strategies to combat foreign information manipulation and interference, so-called FIMI. And we are witnessing in certain countries securitization of media literacy, especially in countries experiencing war and interference of former neighboring countries, like it happens in Georgia or Ukraine. At the same time, we need media literacy skills to deal with election interference and fabrication of observers, which is part also of modern challenges. And some countries prioritize technical skills development rather than critical thinking, and abuse of counter-disinformation measures against critical voices, and use this measure to silence free media outlets or opposition-affiliated media outlets, which are part of the pluralistic media ecosystem. That's why what we are lacking is a common approach and holistic approach to deal with challenges in different contexts, and research, and to develop the evidence-based approach to cover all target groups concerned with disinformation and vulnerable groups. Some organizations are already producing international ratings to develop common strategies, which is important to assess and evaluate what we achieved so far. In our practice, we use the Deutsche Welle Academy approach and 5 pillars of MIL, which is access, analyze, reflect, create, and act. And it's more about behavior change, not about the only informing public, because consumers, media consumers, are also part of media ecosystem, and they are equally sometimes responsible for spread of disinformation without acknowledging this problem. Sometimes people perceive Facebook as their private space, and when fact-checkers interfere with their fact-checking articles informing public, they perceive this as a censorship. That's why we think that behavior change is important to make society more resilient. One of the methods of dealing with false information is platform moderation, which is also attacked by certain actors, and we hope Digital Service Act developed by European Union will be helpful to preserve existing content moderation platforms and mechanisms. We are part of the Meta's fact-checking program, which allows us to reach social media users who spread disinformation on platforms and inform public. How we do fact-checking, we identify problems and we use 4-step approach, deconstruct the false content, track transparency of sources, which is also essential, and explain methods used by different actors. Why tracking of transparency of sources is important? Because everybody makes mistakes, but these mistakes might not be intentional. But when hostile actors are trying to harm society by intentional dissemination of false news, it's a security challenge, and they are using the Western brands in certain cases to mislead public. And here you see the real CNN and the fake CNN, and when you scroll social media, it's difficult to identify the real source. You might share you think that you are sharing post from CNN, but it might be fabricated somewhere else. And cloned media outlets are also used to dismiss public and mislead them. About our practices, we decided to engage using fact-checking activities. Based on our fact-checking platform, we launched Myth Detector Lab with Deutsche Welle Academy, which intensive program incorporating internship at our fact-checking platform, so youngsters are able to produce content themselves, create content, and inform public. The slogan of our program is "Discover Truth Yourself," and the goal is to equip people with necessary skills and knowledge how to differentiate quality media content from fabricated one. Fact-checking is not very convincing methods when you are telling someone that you are a liar. It's not best method to convince people. That's why we need more educated people, and fact-checkers are not able to address all pieces of disinformation in this global media ecosystem. That's why we need equipped, very well equipped people with knowledge that they are able to filter this harmful information in their minds. So we also use gamification for teaching media literacy. An interdisciplinary approach is very important. For instance, teaching geolocation through media literacy game, or operation infection, and teaching Soviet propaganda methods might be part of teaching history in schools. You can access our online game via our website. It's available in English, Georgian, Azerbaijani, and Armenian languages. We're developing them for local minorities, and our fact-checking platform is also a good resource to find different cases for teaching media literacy on AI-generated content, fabricated photo, the fabricated quotes, and other types of information disorders. Thank you, and I'm ready to answer your questions if we have time later.
You want to applaud? Please applaud. So thank you very much, Tama. And of course, it's also important what all you said. It's also that we have to look into the methods how we translate that. Maybe we also have to consider that some information we have has been given to us in a method that is no longer applicable in times. And as you, dear participants, have of course already noted, I have a blind spot this morning because in our introduction I was not mentioning Gulmira Sultanbayeva, professor of the Kazakh National Pedagogical University, who of course has a very, very special role here, because she shows how university, which is thought to be a bit of theoretical, but can have a very practical approaches to designing and implementing media literacy programs, and it's a quite complex work and program yet we have done for a long time. And so Gulmira, I would be, я прошу вас тогда нам рассказывать, как вы с точки зрения университета
Tell us, how do you how will you be working in the universities on media literacy? Thank you.
Здравствуйте.
Good morning. For us, for academia from Kazakhstan, it is very important to speak at the OSCE conference. First, this year we are making presentation for the second time. This year we finished 3-year project with state financing from the financed by the Committee of Higher Education and Science, and this project is dedicated to development of information resources in the media, in digital literacy, to identify the indicators of misinformation. And RAS is translated as truth. So if you are interested, you can go into our website. Our instrument is quite interesting and very easy. It is accessible to everyone. It is available in Kazakh, Russian, and English. Also, we made sure that with very low traffic, the resource can be accessible. And our group worked very well. Our team included IT specialists, journalists, fact checkers, linguists, and other experts. And we had a consultant from the German university, Mr. Thomas Heinich. And when we developed this tool, we discussed the concept of the resource, and we approached our objective comprehensively to make this tool accessible. So it includes analytics, it includes practical tools and toolboxes. And we also engaged some AI functions. So this is our first project in Kazakhstan, which can also work on mobile devices on fact-checking and disinformation. And the final version we presented for the government in this resource. We have 5 blocks.
First one, we did a review for the journalist and a review for the open sources. So we put a description in 3 languages and put the same database, direct link to the database. So the journalist would be find in one resource several databases with description. Second phase, we switch to education. We have 5 modules of education. I really shortened my slides, so our users can download it within the 5 seconds. It's a really quick application. We got a permission from Google, from Meta to user activation through Facebook, from Instagram, through Google. We reviewed, we get a different option to log in. About the cases, case studies, we pick the most important, most 79 cases we pick and we review them, so it would be understandable even for the senior users, for the school children. As a disinformation source where we took a date, a screen of those disinformations that's published. And what is the essence of the disinformation? How we identified such a disinformation? Which tools we used to identify it? And which types of disinformation is? And which categories? Then in our work, we conduct analytical work, identified, classified, and recover some patterns, again, based on the Kazakhstani practice. Then third is training modules with opportunity to get e-certificate with verification after successful completion. As they get certificate, they can study in the Kazakh, English, Russian language, and the certificate is issued, verifies certificate is issued with a QR code. And each QR is not repeated, it's individual. We also connected that certificate to the user. It's a proof that it's got through education process. It's a kind of motivation. We also connected based on the Gemini tool to do fact checking. So it's using different modules. It has some questions for to identify this information. We also connected different the dictionaries, that's for the information literacy, for the Besides handbook, we also provide the links to the scientific articles of the Scopus database. It's very useful as a young scientist when we are working with our masters. It's difficult because we are looking the most interesting articles in our area of research for the media literacy, for the disinformation. So we subscribed to different tools. In the end, selectively, we download it and we provide a small description to each scientific article. What is this article about? We collected more than 500 articles, scientific articles from all worldwide, from all countries. And I think it's going to be very helpful for our scientists. What we used, what was important for us in that research for Kazakhstan? For us, we have a hybrid character threads, social disinformation problem, of a multi-language problem, multilingual Russian and Kazakh language, because for us the character of the Kazakhstan language content and Russian language content is different. We have scientists who knows both languages, and he studies those cases to why in the Russian language you have such a disinformation and the Kazakh language have a different type of disinformation. And we did manage to analyze it and classify these different types of disinformation. We also developed a disinformation in media model and integration of those our practical cases. So each user who can upload, everybody has gadgets nowadays, children, senior citizens, everybody. So people would be able to study through simple examples, simple cases, how you can identify is it truthful or fake information. In the end, we also shared with our source. And it's a technological tool for the fact-checking, for the digital literacy. Which problems we have? Problems, it's difficult to adapt for the national data sets. Especially, we have such a problem in the Kazakh language, especially, and also, disinformation is everywhere, and you cannot put in one resource. We again use as a critical thinking. So everybody nowadays need to develop a critical thinking. Is it true or not? So it's a constant education process. So to make sure that each person need to make sure, and recommendations also, we government and public authorities, organizations, NPOs, societies need to provide a priority of scientific researches and technological development for the integration into education. Without education, with everyday education, we cannot identify this problem. This is, we actually in the end develop methodological recommendation as a booklet, and we work on that book quite a long time. And this manual we shared with journalists, with the public authorities in the University of Central Asia. And now I have opportunity to gift it to our speakers. It's indicators of the digital literacy. Which indicators do we have? Informational culture development, the system. First of all, we need to apply for ourselves. First of all, we learn ourselves on the media literacy and our fundamental work. And we describe it in the book, some metric research and the social issues and a content analysis result. The metric research is very interesting. I conducted myself. We use the modern tools in which countries is fact-checking is actually published in magazines and scientific, and which year is the most actual. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
I think that is why we understand why we need such big screens finally to see all the different, what different methods and how complex it is to find, to address media literacy. Thank you so much. It was very, very interesting, and I think we will have also a lot to discuss, and it's very inspiring for us. And now let me return to Martina, please. Martina, are you still with us? I hope. Thank you for waiting, for being patient with us. And now, of course, we would also like to hear what you do in Ireland, because at the beginning you said, well, we should have a systemic approach or something. There should be more policy work, policy authoring you mentioned. But I think you in your practical work did already a lot to promote media literacy and bringing together different actors. So Martina, maybe you can share your experience with us now. Please, the floor is yours. Martina, we don't hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we hear you very well. Thank you.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. In Ireland, there's no national media literacy policy or strategy, but in recent years, different aspects of media literacy have been embedded across a number of national strategies, such as the National Counter-Disinformation Strategy, the Skills for Life Strategy, and the National Digital Strategy. And I think that underlines the broad reach of media literacy. Within schools, media literacy is not a bespoke subject within the curriculum, although elements of it are integrated into other subjects. And at senior level, there is a short course in digital media literacy available, but it is not mandatory. It is an optional course. Beyond formal education, the only body with a statutory duty to promote media literacy is the National Media Regulator, Commission Man. Now, in about 2016, recognising that a more media literate society is beneficial to everybody, the regulator acknowledged that no single body or even sector could deliver media literacy in isolation. As my colleague mentioned earlier, it is about behaviour change, and behaviour change takes a multi-stakeholder approach, a cross-sector multi-stakeholder approach. And at that point, the regulator committed to establishing a media literacy network in Ireland. So in 2017, Media Literacy Ireland was established, and I became the national coordinator for this body. It's facilitated and funded by the media regulator, but it's actually an independent, informal alliance of people and organisations who collaborate on a mainly voluntary basis to empower people in Ireland with the skills and knowledge to make informed choices about the media content and services that they consume, that they create, and that they share. From around 20 interested parties in 2017, we now have grown to over 300 members, and those members come from a very broad range of sectors. We have commercial and public service media organisations, we have print media, we have tech platforms, we have library networks, we have adult education networks, we have civil society organisations, we have academics, we have regulators, we have online safety organisations and professional learning networks. Now, there's a lot of different work we do. We have 4 areas of activity that we focus on, but I want to I'm conscious of time this morning, so I'm just going to focus on one particular project that I think is relevant to the conversation that we're having today. And that project is our Be Media Smart project. So in 2019, we developed the Be Media Smart campaign. Now, this was a national media campaign which encouraged people to stop, think and check that the information that they were hearing, seeing or reading from any source was accurate and reliable. And the magic of the Be Media Smart campaign was in the collaborative multi-stakeholder approach, because there was a range, a core group of about 12 partners, and everybody played to their own particular strengths. And this was really important because We were resource poor from a funding point of view. We had very little funding. But what we did have was massive reach and creative experience because of the in-kind contribution of members. So, for example, the public broadcaster created and distributed TV and radio ads for free. All of the radio and TV broadcasters in Ireland broadcast those ads for free. And they were just branded as Be Media Smart. They weren't branded by any one broadcaster. News publications printed a print ad for free and highlighted the campaign in editorials. Charities, NGOs and civil society pushed the message via their own communication channels and really did a great job in reaching and reinforcing the message within their own audiences. And social media platforms even offered Media Literacy Ireland members free ad credit to amplify the message to their own networks. And all of this media messaging pointed people to a simple website where they could get easily digestible tips on how to check that the information they were getting was accurate and reliable. The campaign in 2019 was a huge success, much to our surprise, because this was the first time we had done anything like this, and we didn't have a lot of resources to do it. But even more surprising was that the Stop, Think, Check message, which is at the heart of the campaign, that has continued to be used by a really wide range of organisations, way beyond the campaign duration. And in 2013, we ran the campaign again, and this time, recognising the important impact that trusted third-party intermediaries have, we included a community training programme as part of the campaign. So we created a workshop in a box to provide community leaders with the resources they needed to deliver a media literacy workshop within their communities. And we also provided training for 120 teachers, librarians, community leaders, and other facilitators on how to use the workshop in a box and provide hints on how to deliver this kind of training to the public. Now, this laid the foundation for continuing on-the-ground interventions. And 2 years after the media campaign is finished, we are still seeing Be Media Smart resources being used by people in all kinds of community settings. And this year, actually, the workshop in a box model that formed the basis of an international pilot programme designed to upskill librarians in Ireland, Spain and Portugal to deliver media literacy interventions that are specifically designed for their audiences and specifically based on local knowledge and local needs. And again, this demonstrates the power of the cross-sector collaboration to reach people where they are. I'll leave it there for the moment.
Thank you very much, Martina. Also to see, when I listened to you, I also thought like it's very, very smart to cooperate, that you got the media on board to broadcast your media literacy initiative, because they say and I think this is also very good to help promote it, and it's also already a good example how media literacy initiatives and media can cooperate to promote media literacy, which is at the end also very helpful for the public service media for their existence. So this is the first round of I think all the panelists for the presentation. Of course, I have a lot of questions to them, and but we still have some time, and I would like to open the floor to you. You are enthusiasts of media literacy, so it's now for you to have any. If you have any questions, please, you are welcome to raise them now. So I see you here. Wait, I come. So I come and bring the, please introduce yourself.
Здравствуйте, меня зовут Кирилл Мухамедов, я из Туркменистана. Но у меня вопрос к представительнице Таджикистана будет.
My question to representative of Tajikistan, you mentioned about trainings that are conducted for general public, for lay people. So in OSCE, in the nearest future, well, actually this year, a TOT session was done. I'm one of the trainers trained. And so I wanted to ask how specifically you conduct these trainings, for which audience, for which target audiences, maybe teachers or maybe some other groups, maybe government officials, or maybe from some public organizations, or you just conduct these seminars, trainings, just anywhere in cities or towns, or anyone can participate maybe. So what is your approach to the target audience for the trainings? Or just have trainings for anybody, for general public? Thank you. Our experience was 2 years ago. These were first steps for media literacy training. We had 6 sessions, 3 in one region, 3 in another region, Bukhtar and Kolab regions. These are regions of Tajikistan, and our audience was diverse. First, we trained, we did TOTs for local trainers. Then we had combined 3-hour meetings where we had students, school students, housewives, representatives of municipalities. Well, we had diverse audience. And in terms of age, we had diverse audience too. So this was a first experience, and this was an internews project to establish media literacy houses. Well, unfortunately, this experience was not supported further. We could not actually establish media literacy houses as we planned. But your question was about the audience. We had a separate session for journalists, local media outlets. This was TOT session, and from that audience, we selected several trainers, local trainers, for them to cascade the training. And the audience, as I said, was diverse. So we identified the importance of media literacy. We also understood there is an interest from the public, especially local authorities. For the local authorities, for officials, it was like a shocking, because sometimes when they read something from the internet or social media, they even didn't think critically. Let alone general public or youth. So that's why we targeted different audiences of different ages, different groups and genders. And it was kind of the first experience, but unfortunately our project was not supported further, and it could not be continued.
But we have very little time left. So let me see. We go to the some gentlemen. So we take one question from here, one question from the back. I have to skip you, sir, because you already had a question. We had many, and then we take, and then the others keep up. We take 4 more questions. Please short answer. It will all go from your coffee break. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm from Tajikistan. You all know that those who produce fake, for example, what they have done 2 years ago is different. Now it is different. So sometimes I think that the work which is conducted now is not quite efficient. I liked the experience of Georgia when we heard, because they engage youngsters so that they do fact checking. I don't want to say that, old people should not be trained, but really it is difficult. But this does not make sense because they are used to certain practices. It is difficult to change them. So to engage more youth is more efficient. Well, the person from the back, please, your question, but very short. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. So, continuing what has been said, your development, how this is already being taken well by the target audience. Actually, this is a very big work, and for the journalist training institutions, this should be important. Thank you very much. As my colleagues mentioned about training the youth, yes, they were quite engaged in this process. Our students have been trained. Now they're training students from other training institutions, from other universities. But what you said, we know, of course, that it is better to train young. No microphone, unfortunately. Yes, indeed, we have such practice in all universities. The future journalists are trained in fact-checking. But the Georgian experience is quite interesting. We would like to use that too. So I would like to answer the question from Professor Mamatova. Yes, in Kazakhstan universities, including in Central Asian universities, we work closely on this topic to develop, to introduce digital literacy programs. We have in undergraduate, graduate, and postgraduate programs. We would like to expand this program so that our resources would be also available in Kyrgyz, Uzbek, and Tajik languages too, and Turkmen language. Thank you very much. Now we give the floor to the professor from Webster University. So please be brief. Then we'll give the floor to our young people.
Webster University. I'm an American, and my background is not just media, but film and television production. I've been doing programs all of my life. So when I teach media diversity to my students, I tell them originally, of course, media literacy is based on the concept of literacy, reading and writing. And it requires both in the verbal medium. But in visual literacy and in media literacy, we have to not only learn to read and discern what we see that others have created, we have to be discerning, but we also need to be able to, so to speak, to write, to be able to express ourselves. And I tell my students that this generation is about the first ever to be able to both read and write in journalism or in visual medium, video, television. When I was their age, I was rare, as I was one who was already making films in the 1970s, so I was literally visually media literate. I could read and write. But I'd like to know, in your countries, is the literacy also addressing the fact that these students, these young people, all of us, have a responsibility of being credible sources, and we need to be able to establish our credibility. That's what I really stress to my students in terms of being media literate.
Thank you so much. Перед тем, before you reply, перед тем вы отвечаете, давайте слушаем молодежь. Let's listen to the student. And maybe we have time for one more, because you see there's a coffee break and you all want to finish on time. But I'm very, very grateful for your active participation. Now, please.
Hello, I'm Imana Yermanova from Webster University. I'm a media student and we are youth. And today we have AI taking places on the internet and leads to a lot of rise of deep fakes, misinformation, or sometimes even political distresses. And as a youth, we're wondering how can we help the society to overcome some distresses and prevent such problems in the future. Thank you.
Remember this, and now with the last question we take.
This is Beruni Alimov, a local NGO called New Media Education Center. Our colleague from Ireland said that they don't have any national strategy on MIL, but they have, she said, they have other documents, acts, like Digital Act and etc. How about the situation in your countries? For example, in Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, and other countries. Why I'm asking this question? Because recently we started working on national strategy with UNESCO office in Tashkent. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Now, thank you. I was very happy to see, and I think our panelists are also very happy to see that we had such a lively discussion, which I unfortunately have already to stop at this moment because we have other events taking place. I'm kindly asking now our experts to reply and also for the final remarks. But if you can shortly, because we have coffee break outside, and then please feel free to talk to our experts. So maybe I start with Martina.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can you hear me? Yes?
Yes, we hear you very well.
Perfect, thank you. I guess the final comment I would like to make will hopefully answer some of the questions that were asked. I think it's really important for us to acknowledge that there is no one-size-fits-all approach to delivering media literacy. Media literacy is very, very personal. Everybody's media literacy needs are slightly different. So the approach is going to be a very personalized approach. And to echo Tamar's comments earlier, it's about behavior change. And that's different for everybody. And in Ireland, we have a variety of different approaches for different audiences. And this is why we work, certainly within Media Literacy Ireland, we put such an emphasis on working at a grassroots level and empowering the people who are already in a trusted position with people. And to pick up on the point about creating content and the powerful role that creating content can have in terms of promoting and developing media literacy, we have phenomenal projects that are run in libraries for older people and helping them develop stories, videos, mini films, and uploading them online. And through that process, they develop a really strong understanding of nuance, of context, of editorial processes, of all the things that help them better understand how easy it can be for media messages to be changed or manipulated. And in terms of absolutely, there has to be a focus on young people to develop the critical thinking skills and the media literacy skills to help them make informed decisions about content. But media literacy has to be for everybody. We can't depend on just educating one section of society and hope that's enough. We've got to look at this holistically, and we've got to look at media literacy for all. I'll stop there. I could say a lot more, but I'll stop there.
Thank you so much, Martina. Thank you. And I saw also the other experts nodding, and I will now hand over to Gulmira, please, for the final words and the short reply.
Да, я бы хотела ответить на вопрос студенткой.
Answer the question, a student, Webster University, I think, right? So it was a proper question. As an instructor, as a professor in a university, we are worrying about this cadre in the media, in the journalism training. Why quite often students use artificial intelligence or LLM, and during the session, we try to let them work without any gadgets so person would be able to reflect its own idea without these modern tools. But we still have tools that can check text for the AI, AI indicators. In the higher educational institutions, it is a mandatory requirement, but the youth must use your own thoughts, your own knowledge. I'm keep telling students, just reflect your thoughts, even with mistakes, with errors, with maybe put your own vision, reflect your own vision. It's extremely important in our time where the AI is progressing so fast. And I'm as a professor to answer to professor on about the digital literacy, about the media literacy. I would like to add the digital culture elements, because we use every day a lot of information. Informational scrolling is really, we spend so many energy, and we quite often do not even notice where is the truth or not. So we need to personalize our channels of information to get knowledge. I believe that training, education is a need for everybody, each person, through gamification, but through any educational, so any content, it doesn't matter of format, it's extremely important. But the culture starts from us. Culture starts from each person. We are digital people now in this world, so we need to develop those skills. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, I will try to be short. In Georgia, we have quite good policy paper on media literacy, but in practice it does not work, especially in light of this foreign agent law. We have very hostile attitude towards non-state actors. And I agree with Martina, cooperation is essential, but we cooperate more with international network. We're part of Deutsche Welle Academy, Milan network, also ICFN. We're part of fact-checking network, and it also works to communicate at international level and influence local development. In terms of media consumer, I fully agree with Professor. It's not about responsibility of media, but about responsibility of media consumers, because when you share something unverified, you are also responsible for sharing this content. And media literacy about the responsibility of public in acknowledgement their role in this process. Sometimes they do it unintentionally, and this is a way how we can deal with AI-generated content and others. Pre-banking is also a new way to do, actually predict some trends and respond on these trends in advance rather than be defensive, because defensive approach is not always convincing. Thank you.
Thank you, Tamar. Пожалуйста.
Спасибо. Я думаю, интернет также.
My internet could be a tool, despite it's quite often it's internet used for the fake spread information. But at the same time, internet is the same tool to affect. Through digital platforms, we can cover thousands of people in any region, and we can conduct webinars, conduct online courses, and the media literacy to conduct trainings, media to use practical simulations to distribute knowledge, how to identify fakes, and again, how to use joining resources from donors or local initiative groups, and to conduct educational ecosystems, so create ecosystems. The media literacy must become a part of a school and university programs, and intergenerational approaches should be become, so to train youth. I see this question is different. Intergenerational approach could let us also help not only youth but also to senior people, because half of the people is senior people. So the media literacy then we achieve maybe in 2030. So. This approach should be used, preparing experts, local experts. That's a half-sustainable approach for the regional cooperation, exchange of experience between the countries of Central Asia that should help the general informational immunity. Thank you. I will share your proposals.
How do you want?
Ну, заключительно.
Ваши заключительные слова, и вы хотели еще какое-то замечание делать?
Final words, or you want to comment? Yeah, as I mentioned above, a lot of projects implemented, and what about the strategy? We are coming towards that way, and together with the UNESCO, the significant projects been implemented. We work with the state authorities, with Ministry of Culture, with the support of BIS Building to mobilize the joint public councils. Everybody doing their own level in order to promote media literacy, and it's important to note the work not only journalists and non-governmental organizations. We also have press services of public authorities, state authorities. They are very active on the websites, distributions. They quite fast share information, related information. It also helps not to have a informational gap or informational vacuum, and not to increase fakes.
Thank you so much for staying for us longer here in this session, despite the smell of sweets for the coffee break with us. I very much enjoyed this session with you. Of course, it's always great to see as a moderator that people come to the panel and are so active. And of course, I thank my great experts who were with me this morning, and Martina very early in the morning. So I wish you a very, very good day. We are all not running away. You might have more questions, and we could have stayed longer. And here, please approach us. Please approach the experts if you have further questions. With this, we end this session. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
May I please ask you to take your seats so we can start with the final panel for today? May I please ask you to take your seats so we can start with the session? Okay, let's start with the last session for today and for this conference. I would like to welcome you to the session on media viability. My name is Guido Kiel. I'm Senior Advisor to the Representative on Freedom of the Media at the OSCE, and I'll be the moderator of this session. The whole conference has media viability in the topic, in the title, and for this last session, we'll come back to this topic again. We already had a session on media viability at the beginning of the conference yesterday, where we talked about media viability on a higher level, and we ask ourselves, how can regulation contribute to viable media? And in this session, we would like to make one step more towards the implementation of measures to ensure media viability. And for this, we look at the framework that was established to better conceptualize and implement actions towards media viability. It's called the Media Viability Manifesto. We get an introduction into this manifesto and then check with people on the ground to what extent such a framework can actually help to media to become more viable. And for this session, I'm happy to welcome 3 experts on the stage. First, we have Ines Tres from Deutsche Welle Academy, who is giving us an introduction to the Media Viability Manifesto. Deutsche Welle Academy has been a driving force in the development of this manifesto, so Ines would be the right person to explain to us what this is all about. And then we have 2 local Central Asian experts who will, with whom we can do the reality check and see what does this manifesto actually do, can this help us. We have someone from the more NGO side, media development side, with Saida exactly, Saida I call you, thank you. And then we have from the media side, we have Bachmanior, with whom we'll look at this manifesto and the idea of providing a framework for media viability from a media organization's point of view. But first, so in order for everybody to have a common understanding of what this manifesto is all about, please, Ines, could you please explain to us what this media manifesto is, how it came about, and what it's good for?
Yeah, thank you very much for having me here. I'm, as you mentioned, with DW Academy, but the Media Viability Manifesto is actually a document that has been developed by 13 different organizations, and I'm really thankful to be here because this conference is about actioning media viability. So the document has been developed, and in this document 3 things have been kind of defined. First of all, it's a joint understanding of what media viability is all about. It has clear definitions and terms because, yeah, there has been also a little bit of misunderstandings or different understandings on media sustainability, resilience, but it gives a clear definition. A theory of change is part of the Media Viability Manifesto, which is the basis of a strategy that identifies 4 main areas where we need to work together. And there is a typology of media viability tools and approaches so as to align the practical implementation of media viability. So yeah, it serves basically as a common framework for strengthening free media ecosystems. And yeah, if you want to have a closer look, you can download it at mediaviabilitymanifesto.org. I think you also wanted to know how it came about. Well, or why it came about. I think it has been quite clear because media around the world are fighting for survival. Global advertising revenues have dropped by 2/3 in the last decade. Digital advertising revenues are primarily going to big tech platforms, as we have already discussed in other sessions. And yeah, of course, everybody is aware about the public funding cuts from the US and how this heavily intensified the financial crisis. So the lack of money is no longer a problem at the level of the individual media house. It is actually a systemic crisis. So it also requires a systemic response. And yeah, while the discussion about the survival of media has been imminent for a long time, a systematic and coordinated approach has been actually absent. So this was recognized by the 13 organizations that developed the manifesto. They are, as what you can see here are the 13 original organizations who developed it, and then 9 more came on board as we progressed. So they are journalism support organizations, media development organizations, and they sat down at different instances between 2022 and 2024 to develop the manifesto. And this is really the most unique and important aspect about it, that it is a result of a collaboration. So, I mean, there were also global consultations involved with input from more than 150 people from 55 countries. Basically, there's a core group kind of coordinating it. So, DW Academy and I am among this core group, together with colleagues from UNESCO, International Media Support, and the Global Forum for Media Development, GFMD. But overall, the group is quite diverse. It includes organizations also like Sembra Media, FT Strategies, or the University of East Anglia. And what unites us is that we are actively engaged in supporting independent media across world regions. We play a meaningful role in advocacy for media viability, and we commit to collaboration based on shared democratic principles.
Thank you. So, what is in this manifesto?
It's called a manifesto, and if you download it, you will be surprised. It has quite a lot of pages. I think a manifesto, you rather imagine like a 3-pager or something. It is not, but there's a lot in there. So there are actually 4 terrains of work that have been laid out in the manifesto that media development organizations need to tackle to achieve the goal. Maybe you can change the slide because it's easier to visualize. So that the goal that has been defined as part of developing the theory of change is financially and editorially independent and diverse media that are economically sustainable. So the slide over here gives you an overview. We act on the assumption that this can be achieved based on 3 pillars: business and technical support, evidence-based advocacy, coalitions and partnerships, and research and insights, as you can see. Well, business and technical support, that's, for instance, equipping media organizations with essential business skills, developing strategies to access diverse and innovative revenue streams. In terms of coalitions and partnerships, that's, for instance, by creating spaces for knowledge sharing on media viability and facilitating networking. That's why we are all here today and yesterday. Evidence-based advocacy, that's, for example, by jointly identifying evidence-based and context-specific an advocacy agenda that we can all agree on to push for reforms, and research and insights ideally inform this advocacy agenda. And as part of the manifesto initiative, we engage in sharing research on audience behavior, for instance, industry trends, business model, markets factors, and things like that.
When I read this manifesto in preparation for today also, I understood the first 2 dimensions quite well. I think financial support, technical support, this is something we can all relate to, this is something we need. Networking, I think, is something we also realize that this is a good way to strengthen our position, to save funds. The 3rd and the 4th dimension were not so clear to me. Maybe you can give examples. What do you mean with advocacy and with evidence-based advocacy and with research and insights? Can you give a concrete example what this would mean, what we could do in these dimensions?
What the Media Viability Manifesto group does in terms of advocacy is there's currently a task force actually in place, and they I mean, we have to start with something. So as a first step, this task force actually agreed on doing advocacy towards the new MFF. That's the European Union's multi-annual financial framework.
that is just being developed, and it's the next 7-year budget of the European Union. So all those organizations involved in the Media Viability Manifesto initiative come together and agree on certain advocacy messages that they will repeat all over again. They coordinate at which meetings they will show up in Brussels, and really speak with one voice, because that has been a problem in the past, that, you know, there were all these different voices and they have been highlighting different things, always the right things, but the policymakers won't hear us if we are scattered. They will hear us better if we speak with one voice. And then the research that informs the advocacy. So there is a lot of research out there. Also, for example, in the policy manual that OSCE just published, there are a lot of figures that show, for instance, how journalism can contribute to stabilizing a society, is also an economic enabler, but we just need to agree on which data points do we mention again and again, so that people really understand. These are those two pillars.
So it's doing research to find out how we can have an impact on regulation, on the framework within which media exists?
Actually, yeah, doing research, not necessarily. A lot of the time the research is there, and of course we have to rely on universities and academics to do this research, but it's rather reviewing it and pooling it, and as these organizations involved really agreeing on, okay, do we have the same understanding of these insights and data points, and let's agree that we use them in our advocacy work.
Okay, thank you. I don't know how it sounds to you. It might sound to you so far as more of an academic exercise. This is some people who think about things in theory, how media could become more viable. Ines, the question to you, what should media organizations now do with this, or how can this concretely help media organizations in becoming more viable?
Yeah. I think what is in there for media organizations is basically, you know, we also list the various approaches to media viability. So for media organizations, what would likely be most relevant is this business and technical support, of course, and the manifesto outlines existing tools and approaches within the 4 areas. So for business and technical support, this is investment funding, direct and core funding, mentoring and consultancy, analytical assessment tools, and resource guides. So I would encourage media organizations to explore this section in the manifesto and to see how their work actually aligns with it, and what is already available, and then see if they can adapt it to their context. And because the Media Viability Manifesto is now an accepted framework also, I mean, accepted among international media development organizations, we have also been, you know, presenting it to a lot of public funders, of course, so they know it. So when, you know, you write your proposals or you enter a partnership with an international media organization, I think relating your own media viability work to the framework that is the manifesto will resonate with them, and will kind of connect it to an overarching and generally accepted framework. So that's the asset, I think.
Just as the last question regarding the manifesto, you've developed the manifesto, you've published it. What are the next steps now? What is happening on your side with this manifesto?
Yeah. So as we became quite large, we had to split up, of course, in different task forces. So there was quite some momentum at the beginning of this year, where representatives of each of these organizations met at a workshop in London, and there we decided that we will focus the next steps now on 3 different, or developed them in 3 different task forces. So the one is about shared evidence and research base, where it happens what I just described, that we ask all the members, okay, what are the, what data do you use to support the case you make for media viability? Let's look at all the data points and the insights, let's review them, and then decide on which ones we actually focus on. And this then flows into the next task force, which is on advocating for journalism and media development as funding priorities. So the colleagues who are gathering in this task force, they really focus on this MFF, the EU's multi-annual framework, and strategize on, what do we want to, make the case for, what are the priorities when we go to certain events in Brussels, so to have, as I said, to speak with one voice. And then there is another task force that's quite interesting. It's on mobilizing resources across the private sector. So I think, within the media development sector, we have all been quite used to public funding, especially in an international sphere. This was the public funders were the first go-to instance, but we saw now with the funding freeze by the US that it is also on shaky grounds, and our partners in the countries, I mean, they have way more experience in diversifying their funding already. The internationals are not so much, but we have to look into that to really make the case for comprehensive media viability. So that task force now looks into private sector funding, for instance, through philanthropy or blended instruments, loans, concessional capital, revenue-based finance, and things like that.
Okay, thank you very much. I think this gives us a good impression of what this Media Viability Manifesto is all about. Now let's change the perspective. Let's go to the actual people working on the ground. Let's go to Central Asia. And Saida, I would like to ask you, next person, maybe independently from the manifesto, where do you see the main challenges, based on your own experience, on your own work, where do you see the main challenges to media viability in Uzbekistan or in Central Asia?
Добрый день, коллеги. Большое спасибо Инесс за то, что она представила манифест жизнеспособности медиа в эпоху вызовов и угроз. Действительно очень важный документ, мы с ним познакомились и на самом деле нашли для себя много в понимании того, что сегодня должны делать медиа для того, чтобы не просто выживать, а для того, чтобы стать финансово устойчивыми, независимыми, технически оснащенными и в то же время безопасными, а также стратегически интегрированными в общество организациями. И с этой точки зрения манифест жизнеспособности Deutsche Welle, он дает нам язык и понимание того, как мы это можем сделать. С точки зрения Центральной Азии, на мой взгляд, есть два вызова, которые являются определяющими, наверное, в том, что будет с нами завтра. И первый такой вызов – это экономическая зависимость. Вчера выступавшие коллеги много говорили о том, что медиа сегодня очень сильно зависят от рекламного бизнеса, они очень сильно зависят от рекламы. Буквально вчера вот моя партнер Лола Исламова озвучивала цифру в $250 тысяч. Это оборот рекламного рынка в Узбекистане за 2025 год. И как вы понимаете, это очень маленькие цифры, это очень маленький оборот, учитывая, что львиная доля этого оборота, она пришлась на телевидение. И только небольшая доля ушла в другие секторы медиа. Но при этом тоже, как как раз-таки вот эти цифры говорят о том, что та доля рекламного сектора, которая ушла в онлайн-медиа, она не является подушкой для безопасности или жизнеспособности этих медиа, потому что большая часть рекламы приходится на 3-4 крупных СМИ, онлайн-СМИ в Узбекистане, которые, ну, ни для кого не секрет, аффилированы с правительством. То есть это говорит о том, что медиа и медиаорганизации, они вынуждены заниматься своей экономической безопасностью сами. И второй вызов, который мы видим в этом плане, он больше касается организаций гражданского общества, НГО, это жизнь от гранта к гранту. И, как говорила только что Инесс, и вчера коллеги тоже констатировали и упоминали этот факт, что потеря американских программ финансирования за рубежом, она очень сильно повлияла на жизнеспособность медиа. И, к сожалению, пока остальные доноры не могут восполнить как бы вот этот объем иностранной помощи, который был со стороны американских программ. Но, тем не менее, почти год, как это произошло, и СМИ, организации гражданского общества начинают потихоньку осваивать новые возможности и привлекать бизнес, привлекать государство, привлекать частный сектор для того, чтобы развиваться. И применительно к Узбекистану и, наверное, всей Центральной Азии еще один вызов – это низкая цифровая грамотность и цифровая безопасность, что, конечно же, очень сильно влияет на нас и делает уязвимыми перед такими вызовами, как экономическая безопасность. А еще в нашем сообществе очень распространена конкуренция, и, к сожалению, я не могу сказать, что организации гражданского общества, медиаорганизации и СМИ поддерживают друг друга. И вот эта конкуренция, когда она не продуктивная, когда она не способствует развитию сетей и кооперации, эта конкуренция, она становится препятствием для того, чтобы мы развивались. У нас каждая СМИ само по себе, каждая НГО само по себе, более того, все смотрят друг на друга как на врагов. И это очень нехороший знак, и это то, что тянет нас назад. Спасибо.
Thank you. My next question would have been, of the four aspects that were introduced by Ines, the financial technical support, the creation of partnerships, the advocacy and the research, which one is the most important dimension? But what you just said hints at the fact that several dimensions are important. So you say the financial support, of course, is relevant, and the partnerships can help to become financially more viable, but you also said this advocacy, to speak with a united voice or a common voice is very important. Having realized this, do you have examples that inspire us or that give us hope that viability can be achieved? Do you have concrete examples of how, or concrete success stories of how media organizations have been advancing in this respect?
Да, спасибо большое. Гида, у нас есть такие примеры в нашей организации. Я, наверное, расскажу именно на нашем опыте, на наших примерах, потому что это то, о чем я могу говорить уверенно. Мы уже несколько лет стараемся развивать себя именно как сетевая организация и создавать свои собственные сети. Первая сеть, которая была нами создана, это сеть фактчекеров Узбекистана, которую мы начали формировать в 2023 году, когда был создан наш первый сайт по проверке информации FactCheck.net.uz. И вокруг этого сайта мы начали формировать сообщество фактчекеров по всему Узбекистану. Это была комплексная программа, где мы прежде всего, конечно, готовили фактчекеров, которые могут писать для сайта. И для того, чтобы выполнить эту задачу, мы стали в каждом регионе создавать небольшие фактчекинговые сообщества при университетах, мы это делали при редакциях СМИ, мы это делали в различных сообществах студенческих и так далее. И вот этот опыт, он позволил нам понять, что сети – это мощная сила, потому что ребята, которые вошли в фактчекинговую сеть, они на добровольной основе, как фрилансеры, стали сотрудничать с нашим сайтом и генерировать контенты для нашего ресурса. И надо сказать, что это очень здорово помогло сайту подняться. Особенно в первые годы его существования. Мы, конечно, сегодня, в 2025 году, можем говорить о том, что уже больше полгода сайт FactCheck.net не имеет финансирования в виде грантовой поддержки, но благодаря внутренним своим ресурсам и поддержке сети мы смогли на протяжении вот этих 9-10 уже даже месяцев без поддержки, без финансирования смогли и продолжаем поддерживать работу сайта, и это очень важно. Потому что если мы потеряем ресурс, который открыли с таким трудом, и который в значительной степени интегрирован с нашими региональными фактчекинговыми платформами, потому что хоть у нас и нет официальной коалиции, но тем не менее мы поддерживаем друг друга, общаемся друг с другом, предоставляем друг другу свои площадки, мы можем говорить о том, что FactCheck.net УЗ в этом смысле это достаточно уже сформировавшаяся сетевая такая платформа. И вторая платформа, вокруг которой мы тоже только в этом году начинаем формировать сеть, сообщество, это сообщество выпускников медиашколы Deutsche Welle Академии. Как раз-таки буквально несколько месяцев назад мы запустили старт этого сообщества. Моя коллега здесь сидит, Лола Исламова, она как раз координатор этого сообщества выпускников медиашколы. И надо сказать, что почему мы пришли к такому решению. Медиашколе Deutsche Welle в Узбекистане уже 7 лет в этом году, и это самая устойчивая и жизнеспособная из всех школ, академий в странах постсоветского пространства. Ни одна школа не существовала и не финансировалась со стороны немецкого правительства так долго и при поддержке Deutsche Welle. И мы понимаем, что это финансирование тоже когда-нибудь закончится. И понимание этого привело нас к тому, что нам надо создавать свою сеть, потому что наших выпускников сегодня уже более 160. Это журналисты и менеджеры СМИ со всех регионов Узбекистана, которые уже имеют свои медиа, имеют свои возможности, имеют свои площадки, свои связи. И они могут развивать сообщество через различного рода институциональную поддержку, через поддержку, например, в трудоустройстве, через поддержку выпускников школы в открытии собственного бизнеса, через оплачиваемые стажировки, например, через оплачиваемое обучение и другие возможности, которые, мы надеемся, наше сообщество будет предоставлять своим друзьям, своим коллегам. И это сообщество на следующий год достигнет уже 200 журналистов и медиаменеджеров. И мы считаем, что это сообщество еще решает проблему не только жизнеспособности этой школы после завершения финансирования, после того, как БМЗ, предположим, перестанет финансировать эту школу. Мы считаем, что это сообщество вполне может динамично, органично развиваться дальше и обеспечивать финансами в определенном смысле. Конечно, мы не говорим о том, что сообщество завтра полностью покроет, там, скажем, следующий выпуск школы. Нет, но оно предоставит возможности выпускникам развиваться и развивать свои собственные медиа. Спасибо.
Thank you for these insights and these examples, which give hope that with partnerships, especially, we can we can make the best of the scarce resources that we have in terms of finances, but also in terms of knowledge that there is. Thank you very much. Let's change now the perspective once more, and let's get to the concrete media organization. We have Bahmaniar here, who's an editorial director, so you're working not as for an NGO, but for Medium itself, for Asia Plus. The question to you, Bahmaniar, where do you see the biggest challenge for your own media organization in terms of viability? What keeps you up at night? Why can't you sleep regarding the survival of your medium? What is it that bothers you or that stresses you out?
Ассаламу алейкум. Спасибо за приглашение и предоставленную возможность. Со вчерашнего дня мы обсуждаем вызовы для медиа в Центральной Азии, и эти вызовы повторяются во всех странах региона. Я бы хотел еще раз отметить, что главные вызовы для СМИ региона это является в первую очередь отсутствие свободы, цензура и самоцензура. Кроме того, как отметили коллеги, наблюдается падение дохода, в том числе из-за ухода доноров из региона. Естественно, я не буду повторить о давлении на журналистов и на бизнес, в том числе, который тоже отражается на работу медиа. Кроме этих основных пунктов, я бы хотел еще добавить про изменение поведения аудитории, потому что это тоже очень важно для выживаемости и жизнеспособности медиа. Почему? Потому что сегодня мы видим, что аудитория все чаще уходит в соцсети, и даже уже можем говорить, что в искусственный интеллект. Самый простой пример – это то, что когда люди ищут информацию, то они уже не обращаются к Google, скажем так, а к ChatGPT и получают быстрый, короткий ответ. И нет необходимости перейти на сайт медиа и прочитать. Получается, что посещаемость сайта медиа падает, и это будет и дальше развиваться в этом направлении. Вот. Что не дает спать, вот эти основные вызовы, и, конечно же, в первую очередь, это отсутствие свободы.
You heard what the Media Viability Manifesto, you heard about the Media Viability Manifesto and what they identified as dimensions, relevant dimensions to make media more sustainable or more viable. To what extent does this reflect your situation? If you hear about technical financial support, partnerships, advocacy and research, does this represent what's the issues you deal with? Okay.
Я успел коротко ознакомиться с манифестом. На самом деле манифест помогает системно взглянуть на то, что происходит и куда идти дальше. Но, как отметили вчера другие коллеги, для нашего региона, я могу сказать еще конкретнее, для Таджикистана не работают глобальные решения, у нас своя специфика, и, естественно, надо думать о локализации этих решений. То есть документ очень хороший, помогает системно смотреть на все проблемы и указаны пути решения. Но я бы хотел, чтобы мы почаще обсудили этот документ, встретились, обменивались опытом, и коллеги в том числе помогли нам адаптировать под условия Таджикистана. Я приведу один пример. Инесс сейчас в качестве примера сказала, что медиа могут больше внимания выделить по бизнес-навыкам согласно этому документу. Да, на самом деле это очень важно, потому что надо зарабатывать в первую очередь медиа, чтобы выживать. Но самый простой пример в том, что когда бизнес выживает сам, ему не до рекламы и не до партнерства. Поэтому я хочу говорить о том, что мы должны думать не только о медиа-среде, но и о бизнес-среде в наших странах, потому что это очень важно. Другой пример в том, что в стране, где монополизированы цели отрасли, там банки, операторы, провайдеры, другие отрасли, получается, нет конкуренции. И когда нет конкуренции, то бизнесу нет никакой необходимости работать со СМИ, рекламироваться у СМИ, да, размещать рекламу и вообще работать со СМИ. То есть в этом контексте я хочу отметить, что проблема не в том, что медиа не знает, как работать с бизнесом, как продавать свои продукты. В принципе, у нас, если в редакции взять, очень много успешных примеров, очень много продукции, которые мы предлагаем бизнесу. Но проблема в том, что бизнес не готов работать со СМИ, то есть нет хорошей бизнес-среды. Это в первую очередь, и я уже говорил о том, что монополия мешает этому, потому что нет конкуренции, нет необходимости работать со СМИ. И другая проблема в том, что бизнес не видит медиа, в лицо медиа как партнера в том смысле, что СМИ помогает развиваться обществу, стране, и надо помогать СМИ. Вот такого понимания, к сожалению, у бизнеса нет. Но и пока это не меняется, я думаю, очень сложно будет работать в этом направлении.
You said this global document should be broken down or should be adapted to local circumstances, and we should have the discussion, and I think Ines or the Deutsche Welle Academy very much agree with this. Let's start the discussion, let's have the discussion, and maybe your first step in the discussion would be, maybe you can tell us what you are doing to overcome these challenges that you outlined. So how do you yourself trying to make your own media organization more viable? What have you done to overcome these financial problems, but also the problem with the lack of freedom, or also the changing audience behavior? What have you done as a media organization in that respect?
Спасибо за вопрос. Смотрите, у нас получается в Азия Плюс мы стараемся смотреть на вещи реалистично. Скажу честно, иногда по разным причинам приходится отказаться от некоторых тем. Это надо для выживания. То есть мы выбираем отказаться от некоторых тем в пользу того, чтобы выживать и хоть как-то работать, хоть что-то сообщить аудитории, чем из-за одной статьи закрыть всю редакцию и поставить под риск своих сотрудников. Это что касается по первой части, по свободе слова. Вот. Что касается устойчивого бюджета, то мы стараемся быть в ногу со временем, как говорят, попробовать новые форматы, новые площадки и удержать аудиторию, быть там, где наша аудитория. Потому что для медиа главным капиталом является это аудитория. Без аудитории то медиа никак не может существовать. Именно поэтому я приведу сейчас один такой простой пример. Ранее медиа во всех странах и в нашем регионе зарабатывали точнее на размещении рекламы на веб-сайтах медиа, там баннерная реклама, пресс-релиз и так далее. Но на сегодняшний день эта модель уже не работает, потому что все меньше компаний, бизнес заинтересованы размещать такой-то скучный баннер на веб-сайте медиа. Поэтому хорошо, что мы успешно развивали наши соцсети. У нас сегодня 1,6 миллиона подписчиков в социальных сетях. Для маленького Таджикистана это достаточно хорошая цифра. И еще одна цифра, что 30% всего дохода медиагруппы Азия Плюс сегодня за счет размещения рекламы на наших страницах в соцсети. То есть мы пытаемся развиваться, идти дальше, думать вперед и думать о том, что через год, через 2 года, как мы можем зарабатывать, на чем мы можем зарабатывать и так далее. Кроме того, когда запускается новый продукт, новые форматы, новые рубрики, прежде всего, это не только проблема редакции, я имею в виду не только проблема редакторов и журналистов. Мы обсуждаем всей командой, куда входит и отдел продаж, коммерческая служба. И мы, прежде чем запускать какие-то новые продукты и форматы, мы думаем о том, что можем ли мы этот продукт монетизировать в будущем. И иногда придется отказаться или временно приостановить запуск каких-то новых продуктов, потому что понимаем, что там большие затраты, при этом мы не можем на этом зарабатывать и не можем себе позволить такие расходы. Кроме того, помимо деятельности как медиа, мы занимаемся проведением ивентов, и в год мы проводим до 10 ивентов, разных ивентов, в том числе праздники для детей. Это называется «Здравствуй, лето». У нас есть фестиваль ретро-автомобилей, у нас есть музыкальная премия Тарона и так далее. То есть мы подумали, что если мы будем зарабатывать только как медиа, то есть размещением рекламы и так далее, то этого будет недостаточно для устойчивого развития. Поэтому это получается такое новое направление, не новое направление, давно занимаемся этим, но дополнительный источник дохода – это проведение различных ивентов.
Спасибо большое, коллеги. Бахманер действительно хорошо сказал о том, что ключевой фактор, который не способствует развитию медиа как бизнеса, это отсутствие свободы в самих медиа, потому что действительно отсутствие свободы слова, оно делает медиа непривлекательными для бизнеса. Бизнес не придет в слабые медиа, которые транслируют, скажем, несвободные взгляды, несвободные точки зрения, и это наша общая боль, пожалуй, всех СМИ в Центральной Азии, потому что рекламодатель действительно уходит, то же самое мы наблюдаем в Узбекистане, уходит из сайтов вместе со своими заказами, даже с крупных сайтов, больших сайтов, уходит в социальные сети, потому что там можно монетизировать контент, монетизировать его достаточно успешно и таким образом развивать как бы и свои сети с точки зрения контента, расширять аудиторию, масштабировать свою работу и пополнять бюджет медиа, бюджет организаций. И я расскажу, что мы сделали в центре для того, чтобы как-то решить вопрос жизнеспособности. В начале этого года мы, после известного приказа из Белого дома, мы наконец-то пришли к тому, что мы разработали наш каталог платных услуг нашей организации. Мы долго об этом думали, мы планировали это сделать, каждый раз откладывали, потому что были гранты. Но в начале года мы это сделали, уже в марте месяце мы повесили наш каталог на сайт. И надо сказать, что в течение 2025 года мы, хотя мы не надеялись, но мы получили 5 заказов от бизнеса на оказание услуг в различных сферах медиа, эффективной коммуникации, пиар и наращивания потенциала сотрудников различных бизнес-структур и организаций в проведении успешных информационных кампаний, в наращивании потенциала, в создании контента о деятельности этих организаций и так далее. И вот как сейчас коллега сказал, что они в течение года провели даже 10 ивентов, мы тоже стали проводить ивенты, это очень оказалось прибыльным, и благодаря некоторым проведенным ивентам, успешно проведенным, мы получили возможность поддерживать 6 наших ресурсов, у нашего центра 6 ресурсов, среди которых один это официальный сайт FactCheck.net, остальные ресурсы, они ресурсы по медиаграмотности, по правовой поддержке журналистов legalclinic.uz, ресурс по медиаграмотности МСАВОД и другие площадки. Мы получили возможность поддерживать их без грантовой подпитки, без грантовой помощи, благодаря нашей коммерческой деятельности. Таким образом, вот такая диверсификация не только деятельности, но и доходов, она позволила нам выжить в 2025 году, и, наверное, спасибо Трампу.
In a moment, I will open up the discussion for your questions, so we can all start thinking about what you'd like to know. But before I open it up, I'd like to have one question. I'd like to ask one question to the makers of the manifesto, or regarding the framework. Bahmanyor pointed out the change of audience behavior, and he discussed this mostly from a financial point of view, that we lose audiences. But you could also say there's a more existential, or just as existential perspective to this, that if media, traditional news media, lose their audience, they're not relevant anymore, and they lose their function in society of informing and informing people and allowing for the development of opinions, because they're just not heard and not seen by anybody. To what extent does this framework that you developed address this challenge?
Well, the framework addresses challenges very much at the structural level. And what was obvious when listening to you, Bahmanyor and Saida, was that you know best how your local media markets work and what exactly to do there. The Media Viability Manifesto, for example, but looks at what Bahmanyor just mentioned, this development that the audiences don't even go to Google anymore. They just ask ChatGPT, and then they get an answer that has been sourced by many different news pieces that have been researched by journalists, and ideally these journalists get paid for it. But if they see the news that they want to get without even having to click on it, you have these zero-click searches, which totally distort the business model that is in place at the moment. So these are the kind of broader structural things the manifesto is looking at. So we try to tackle this by, for example, advocating for solutions to this problem that AI models, LLMs, are being trained on the basis of journalistic content, but the journalists don't see any money for that. And of course, it's also a matter of, and then Mill comes in, educating the audience about how all these things are actually related. Now, I think we are in a phase where, it's an innovation and people are trying out and see, hey, I can ask ChatGPT and it gives me any answer. At the first look, it looks like that. So we also have this connection to the AI discussions we have already had. As my colleague Fabian Lang said yesterday, maybe we come to a point where people actually question, but how does the system actually work when they get some, answers that they actually don't find reliable? Then they would like to know, okay, but how did this come about? And then at a certain point, hopefully, the audience will realize what journalism actually does for them. What is the added value by, interviewing people, trying to get different sources, different perspectives, verifying facts. So we see that all the different topics we have been discussing actually come together here. So part of the advocacy efforts of those media development organizations that come together as the Media Viability Manifesto group is to make this case, and also to ideally have impact on society, to in the end show that, as has been also mentioned in the beginning of this conference, media is a public, or should be a public good. And the audience just has to kind of notice this at some point, and maybe it will notice it in the hard way. But I think those events, like really connecting with the audiences that these media houses do, that is also a contribution to really finding out and speaking to your audience and having this connection. And again.
Okay, thank you. With this, I would like to open discussion, and I would like to hear your questions, and there should be microphones in the room somewhere.
I have
Oh,
one.
you have microphone already. Okay,
Hello,
thank you.
everyone. Thank you for this very important topic and discussion. Thank you a lot for all speakers. I'm Dilfuza from Tashkent, editor-in-chief of CheckNet that mentioned my colleague Saida Suleymanova. I address my question to Ines. The first one, how the media worldwide is reflecting, reacting for manifesto initiative. Does they see it like a document only, because our speakers also mentioned this document now, or they are seeing it as like a practical mechanism that in future can deliver some opportunities and help them, support them? And the second question is what the manifesto concretely plan to deliver or to help support for non-EU media outlets worldwide, because you mentioned about EU funds that are very limited for especially Central Asian countries. And do you see some, I don't know, special focus for especially fact-checking and investigative media outlets that should be non-affiliated with no government, should be free with advertisement, and they are on a risk mostly comparing with another media outlets that can see and preview another funding opportunities as well? Thank you.
Thank you. Maybe we can take a second question. Is there a second question? Yes.
Thank you very much. It's very important discussion. It's media outlets, economically sustainability is also important for Mongolians. I think it's also important topic is how to survive the media self-regulation bodies. Is it include in? Is it possible to include in the manifesto program? It's you mentioned about the advocacy actions to media viability and the sustainability, because in the Mongolians, some of the supporters for the media self-regulation body, they set up the media independent funding for media self-regulation. It is non-governmental organization. They have only one mission, to support Mongolian Media Council exist, sustainability. They started to organize some of the grand fundraising events for economic sector and business sectors. We have just starting to collect the experience to attract business sectors. We need to some advocacy and supports to the exist of the Media Development Fund. Thank you.
Thank you. Ines, I think the questions were to you, but then I invite Saida and Bahmanio to also add to it.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much for these questions. So about the one whether how media worldwide reacted to the manifesto and to what extent it is a practical mechanism. It is not a practical mechanism for them. So it doesn't make the claim to be a practical mechanism. All these organizations involved in the development of the manifesto, of course, they in the past years have worked together with partners all over the world and tried to develop certain tools on, how to get audience insights, how to engage on social media, and all these like practical things. And the manifesto as such is I think at a little bit of a more abstract policy level. But I think talking about maybe regionalization and what problems, or localization, what problems media are facing in certain regions, maybe it can be a role model of that organizations can come together, agree on certain broader issues, no matter how different your newsrooms are organized or how different your channels are, to tackle this structural crisis in your own way for your own region. So that would actually be my suggestion. And then if we talk about self-regulation, I think what I learned here is that, for instance, if we talk generally about, hey, yes, let's regulate the big tech companies, I heard that there is some resistance here because there's not a lot of trust towards your government to regulate properly and, you know, reliably. It can turn to censorship of the media houses easily. So self-regulation, I think, would actually be a nice and vital avenue to look into, because then the media are those who take the responsibility, and maybe, I mean, I would also have hoped that there is, that there can be maybe a dialogue also with representatives of big tech, and maybe we come to a point where kind of self-regulation, real self-regulation according to rules and standards is possible in this new media environment that we find ourselves in.
Maybe Saida and Bahmanyor, you could add to this and just say something to what extent self-regulation has helped media in Uzbekistan and Tajikistan to become more viable, or how self-regulation strengthens the position of media, if they have.
Если говорить о саморегуляции прессы, то, к сожалению, как бы в Узбекистане органов по саморегулированию СМИ, таких достаточно сильных, влиятельных и авторитетных нет. Если говорить про такие профессиональные объединения, которые существуют в Узбекистане, то они давно себя дискредитировали тем, что раздают достаточно сомнительные премии, за достаточно сомнительные услуги на протяжении многих лет, и доверие к этим организациям и сообществам, которые призваны на самом деле консолидировать медиасообщество, объединять журналистов и помогать им выживать, доверия к ним в обществе нет. Но я думаю, что сейчас, в эпоху цифровых медиа, настало время создать такой орган, который был бы влиятельным, авторитетным, пользовался уважением всего медиасообщества, в который бы вошли независимые журналисты, эксперты, представители бизнеса, общественных организаций, и могли бы сообща решать проблемы медиасектора и гражданского общества. Спасибо.
Are there any more questions? I think we have time. Is there a question somewhere? Okay.
У меня вопрос к Бахманьору. Бахманьор, вы сказали, если бизнес ближе не подходит на СМИ, может, скажем, на сайтах, если мешает монополию, в перспективе как будем? Государственные чиновники мешают, если на того. Об этом никто не сказал. Еще Саида сказал, вчера, несколько дней назад опубликовали бизнесный доход Даракчи из Куню сайт. Я так волновался. Я считал, это большую сумму. А эксперты сказали, это мизерную сумму. Саида, как будем в перспективе в Узбекистане развивать без вмешательства?
Спасибо за вопрос. Я говорил о том, что надо быть на шаг впереди медиа. Я имею в виду, что надо быть готовым к тому, что медиапотребление со стороны аудитории меняется. исходя из этого меняется и бизнес-структура. Я имею в виду, что когда бизнес видит, что люди не заходят на сайт, а потребляют информацию больше в социальных сетях, то, естественно, бизнес понимает, что смысла нет повесить баннер на сайте медиаорганизации. И это говорит о том, что мы должны быть на шаг впереди и нашей аудитории, и бизнеса. Когда я говорил про монополию, я имел в виду, что, к сожалению, некоторые отрасли монополизированы, и, естественно, когда они являются монополистом, и нет смысла рекламировать свои услуги, потому что так и так люди хотят, не хотят, будут пользоваться их услугами, потому что другого выбора нет. И при таких условиях обычно монополизированы очень большие рынки, да, особенно банки и так далее. И, естественно, это отражается на работу СМИ, потому что СМИ автоматом потеряют больших компаний, которые финансово могут себе позволить большие расходы на рекламу. А так как они являются монополистами, они не нуждаются в рекламе, и это минус для СМИ.
I think we're just getting started with the discussion, but we have to have a look at time. So for time reasons, I think we have one more question that we can take. Or Saida, did you want to add to this? Saida, and then the last question, then this has to be it, unfortunately.
Yeah. Iltimos, man sualni qisman eshitdim. Можете еще услышать?
Could you repeat the question, because the microphone didn't produce sound, and I need to repeat. And barely hear the speaker. The question. If Saida turn on microphone would be better for us. It's not ideal. Again, the website we need to study. Could you please turn off microphone on the desk in front of Saida? And thank you very much. And we need to develop, and you need to work with the auditorium and the advertisement business. We need to work with them. Yes, I understand your question. We talk about the advertisement market that's divided between the significant players. This is what I said, that the biggest portion of the advertisement company is related to the big media, and especially small media, print media, the sector. It's actually even reducing to 2–3%. It's nothing, and the survivability is questionable. Difficult to survive for them. Solution. Which solution for the printed media? Digitalization is go to, instead of print, go to online, go to digital printing, and using opportunities of the social networks in the first place, because right now it's an advertisement. It's the social networks is interested the most. How many subscribers you have, and what is the coverage in internet area?
If you can develop your social network being printed and digital outlet, I think due to online content and the formats that are now good for their audience, you can support your viability. Thank you.
Last question, and then I think we have to finish, please.
This is not a question, this is a comment. I wanted to say that there is one more danger. Well, I don't want to be pessimistic at the end of the session, but there is still such danger or risk that mass media are facing. This is investigative journalism, critique, and in Central Asia, and in particularly in Uzbekistan, such media outlets are being afraid of, first of all, by advertisers. They are leaving these media outlets. They don't want to put themselves at risk. Unfortunately, this is the truth. I think this is probably a separate topic for discussion. What we need to do about this, we need to discuss. We need to promote social responsibility among large advertisement companies. So this is my comment.
And with this, we have to come to an end. I think there's just encouragement to keep the discussion going, and I think the discussion will go on. Will have to be also adapted to local circumstances, maybe based on this framework that Deutsche Welle Academy is providing us. Thank you very much to the experts for the discussion. Thank you very much for your attention, for your questions. We will continue now with the closing remarks, so you might just stay here, and we will then come to the closing remarks of this conference. Thank you very much.
Hello, sorry, somebody forgot a phone downstairs. If somebody of you is missing their phone, I found this one. It's an iPhone, I don't know which one, but please let me know in case it's yours.
Dear participants, if you can please take your seats for our closing session. Thank you so much. And it's my pleasure to invite Ambassador Jan Bratu, the OSCE representative on freedom of the media, for his closing remarks. Ambassador Bratu, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Dear participants, great to see so many of you still with us today. It's been a day and a half of very informative, very interactive work, because conference participation is work. It's also pleasure, but we have learned a lot. And as we come to the close of the 25th Central Asia Media Conference, I would like to take a few moments to reflect on what we have shared, what we have learned, and what we have envisioned together over the past day and a half. From our opening discussions through all of our sessions, we have been reminded of the profound role that independent, viable media play as the backbone of open and knowledge-based societies. Media freedom, media viability ensure that citizens can make informed decisions, expose wrongdoing, give voice to marginalized communities, and build the trust and accountability that underpin safe, cohesive, and thriving societies. This guiding principle has been at the heart of our conversations and I believe shaped the ideas that we have shared. Reflecting on the discussions over the last couple of days, it's clear to me that media viability faces a landscape of unprecedented complexity. Technology is reshaping every aspect of journalism, from how stories are sourced and produced to how they reach their audiences. The rise of AI-generated content, the dominance of global tech platforms, and the algorithmic shaping of public attention all create pressures that threaten the viability of public interest journalism. These challenges are compounded by economic uncertainties, regulatory gaps, and persistent threats to journalist safety, both online and offline. But this conference has also showed clear opportunities for learning, collaboration, and development. Through our sessions, we have explored how journalists and media organizations navigate various pressures with creativity and indeed with resilience. We've shared examples of innovative newsroom practices that integrate technology responsibly, ethically, and sustain public trust. But independent media cannot navigate these challenges alone. They need support from state authorities through enabling policies and non-restrictive legal and regulatory frameworks. Alongside this, collaboration, of course, with civil society and with industry partners in order to build resilient, ethical, and trusted, or I should say trustworthy journalism. This support must go hand in hand with the media's commitment to accuracy and ethical standards. In an era of rapid technological change and information overload, the credibility of journalism derives from its integrity. It derives from ethical and reliable reporting that distinguishes professional journalism from the flood of content that surrounds us. They are indeed the foundation upon which public trust is built. We also examined the legal and policy environments in which the media operate. Across the Central Asian region, independent journalists and media outlets increasingly face legal and financial pressures designed less to resolve legitimate goals than to silence critical reporting. Lawsuits demanding disproportionate damages, attempts to shut down outlets on technical and other grounds, and the freezing of media accounts create a chilling effect, making journalism financially risky and operationally very difficult. Throughout our discussions, participants highlighted the importance of clear, proportionate, and transparent legal frameworks. Frameworks that protect journalists, that support media viability, and balance legitimate public interests. I shall be closely following these cases and developments as they are key indicators of the health of independent media in the region. We have also addressed one of the most pressing challenges, namely the safety of journalists, and we heard compelling accounts of the threats journalists face and the practical steps that should be taken to protect them, to prevent attacks and end impunity for crimes against media professionals. From physical safety to digital safeguards, these discussions strengthened and emphasized that journalist safety is inseparable from media freedom. The dialogue here today and yesterday has reinforced our shared understanding that protecting journalists is not only a moral imperative, but a strategic necessity for ensuring resilient and independent media that serve the public interest. Together, we also tackled the important question of how to sustain media viability while engaging and educating audiences. Media literacy, audience engagement, and the public's trust in journalism are essential to creating resilient information ecosystems. By strengthening the capacity of audiences to critically engage with content and supporting the media in communicating complex issues effectively, we take concrete steps towards reinforcing the very foundations of democratic society. We also had the opportunity to discuss the importance of covering the challenges emerging from environmental degradation and the climate crisis, which is at the top of the agenda throughout Central Asia. The practical manual for journalists on reporting the environment, produced by my office in cooperation with UNESCO, will, I believe, serve as a valuable tool for journalists in the region and beyond. And we hope that this will inspire reporting that informs, engages, and indeed drives action on issues of vital importance. I'm also pleased that we were able to present to you my office's new policy manual on safeguarding media freedom in the age of big tech platforms and artificial intelligence. Your engagement with this resource, the questions, the insights, and your reflections on its application in Central Asia and beyond have been valuable. This discussion should continue. The discussions reflected both the recognition of the importance of these guidelines, or the need for these guidelines, and the collective willingness to consider how they might be implemented to reinforce media independence and uphold public interest journalism amid the growing influence of artificial intelligence and big tech. The panel with artificial intelligence experts was both revealing, informative, and I dare say also inspiring. It demonstrated ways in which AI can benefit the media, as well as pointing out some of the dangers inherent in AI applications in the newsroom. Knowledge, ladies and gentlemen, as always, is the key. What has struck me throughout this conference is the richness of perspectives and the engagement from diverse sectors. Your contributions, insights, willingness to challenge ideas have made our dialogue not only productive, but certainly for me, and I believe for others as well, inspiring. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a cooperative effort. It is through the convergence of ideas from and dialogue with various stakeholders that we can shape a media ecosystem that is robust, independent, and sustainable. As we move forward, we will be preparing a set of key takeaways from this conference. They will serve as a roadmap to pursue the implementation of the ideas, strategies, and frameworks we have explored together. And we will also be conducting an evaluation to capture your feedback, your reactions. And we highly value your feedback and your reactions. In fact, we need your feedback and your reactions in order to learn and in order to develop further. It will help us ensure that our efforts remain relevant to you here in Central Asia. Actionable, something that can actually be done here in Central Asia, and responsive to your realities here in Central Asia. There is no one-size-fits-all. We can have principles that are global, but we must action those principles in accordance with the local contexts, the regional contexts. Finally, I want to extend my gratitude to the participants, the panelists, for their engagement, for their ideas, for sharing with us. Certainly, this has been inspiring. I also want to thank my team, who have put a tremendous effort into organizing this conference. They have done so with professionalism and dedication. And so, thank you all. Thank you to my team, thank you to the moderators, thank you to the participants. Without you, there would be no conference. It is certainly a shared endeavor. Let us leave this conference not only with new knowledge and some practical ideas, but with a renewed commitment to supporting independent, resilient, and trustworthy media across the region. The work ahead, ladies and gentlemen, will not be simple. It will be extremely complicated, difficult, challenging, for a variety of reasons, and you know them all. But we must persevere, and I encourage you all to persevere, because the challenge before us goes beyond the role of media outlets. It has to do with democratic governance and the protection of human and civil rights. Because without free and independent media, ladies and gentlemen, all these other rights are under question, if not under threat. We have been here demonstrating that together across sectors and borders, we can advance media freedom and we can uphold democratic values that benefit us all. So I remain committed to supporting your efforts in addressing these challenges, whether it be in policy development, promoting cross-sector collaboration, guided by OSCE and other internationally recognized standards and commitments on media freedom. And I certainly do look forward to continuing this dialogue and providing whatever assistance I and my office are able to provide to you, media practitioners, and also to the governments of the region to improve the media situation throughout Central Asia. Thank you for your participation, and let's continue the work in the time ahead. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Bratu, for your inspired remarks. Indeed, thank you all to the speakers, to the participants. This closes the 25th Central Asia Media Conference organized by RFOM. However, we invite you to continue these discussions over one last lunch if you're still hungry. Before leaving the room, please make sure that you leave your receivers for interpretation at the booth, at the entrance table. And there is still one lost phone. If someone has lost their phone, please see my colleague Julia Haas in the front. Thank you, everyone, and have a safe return home. Thank you.